Jonathan Isaac. Stand tall for freedom of conscience.
Zars knocked away the ability to get it back. And up
for DJ Augustine. Ellington turned for corner. His shot. Morris found the three-point line, but Isaac found him. And Vucevic.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed.
That was Jonathan Isaac of the Magic, and obviously he says that his teammates respect his decision. It's the first player that we've seen stand during the national anthem, and as we've seen, officials, staff members, coaches all kneeling at the same time during it. What's your reaction to hearing his decision?
That's his right, and I appreciate the fact that he took on the questions. He was trending the entire game, and he actually tried to give an explanation why. I'm not a fan of cancel culture in any way, shape, or form. I pride myself on being a free thinker, and I feel like it'd be hypocritical if I'm somebody that says, I appreciate Colin Kaepernick taking a peaceful protest before a football game, if I have a problem with Jonathan Isaac using his right to stand during the national anthem.
For granted. Something happened today. I was driving, and I had, how many people, you're not supposed to be on your phone and drive. There we go, that's better. You're not supposed to be on your phone and drive. But you know, we human, and I had grabbed my phone to change my song, and as soon as I grabbed the phone, the car in front of me slammed on its brakes, and my car had to stop for me. So I thank God that I have the car that I have, that it stopped for me, amen. Like I didn't have time to touch the brakes at all. I looked up and the car had to stop for itself. And then a little bit later, I got a text from Doc, and Doc said, make sure you're being careful as you get closer and closer to your wedding. Make sure you're wearing your mask, make sure. And I thought to myself, he's thinking about me. You hear what I'm saying? Like, to be a pastor is a lot. How many?
After deciding to stand instead of taking a knee during the national anthem, Magic forward Jonathan Isaac's jersey has skyrocketed in sales on NBA.com. Isaac's jersey is now the second most popular jersey of any current player, only behind LeBron. And Isaac, who is unfortunately now out with a torn ACL, made it very clear that he fully supports the Black Lives Matter movement, but he personally believed that taking a knee doesn't necessarily go.
I would say, honestly, the craziness of it all, in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to, doesn't make one comfortable to do what said person is telling them to do. Yeah.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Liberty must at all hazards be supported. We have a right to it, derived from our Maker. Our fathers have earned and bought it for us, at the expense of their ease, their estates, their pleasure, and their blood.
The name of American, which belongs to you in your national capacity, must always exalt the just pride of patriotism.
The cause of America is in a great measure the cause of all mankind.
We have this day restored the sovereign to whom alone men ought to be obedient. He reigns in heaven, and with a propitious eye, he beholds his subjects assuming that freedom of thought and dignity of self-direction which he bestowed on them. From the rising to the setting sun, may his kingdom come.
Freedom of religion. The First Amendment of the Constitution contains some of the most fundamental freedoms of our country, including freedoms of speech, press, protest, assembly, and last but not least, religion. Religious liberty is a fundamental component of our society, and the separation between church and state is what made the founding of America so revolutionary. Many, if not most colonists, came to the New World seeking religious tolerance and the freedom to worship, competing with one another. The founders believed the only way to prevent the new nation from being torn apart by religious factions was to sever ties between the state and churches. The First Amendment was ratified in 1791. Freedom of religion as outlined in the First Amendment is split into two parts. The Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And the Free Exercise Clause, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Basically, this language guaranteed that the government would have no official religion, nor would it prevent anyone from practicing their own beliefs. The phrase separation of church and state wasn't actually included in the Bill of Rights or the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson used the phrase in an 1802 letter to the Danbury Baptist Association. Well, in 1971, the Supreme Court in Lemon v. Kurtzman created a three-pronged criteria to ensure government policies or acts do not violate religious freedoms. First, a policy cannot have a religious purpose. Second, it cannot end up promoting or favoring any set of religious beliefs. And third, it cannot overly involve the government with religion. How does that translate into the real world? It's probably best exemplified in our public schools, where neither teachers nor students are allowed to lead a class in prayer, because that would mean the school is promoting a particular religion above others. Educators can teach about religion in the context of history, but can't preach its tenets or beliefs. Religious extracurricular activities can take place, but they must be organized and run by students and be held during non-school hours. The Founding Fathers, based on the experience of their ancestors and their own beliefs, managed to forge a government whose freedoms are as important today as they were then. And freedom of religion continues to be one of the most important liberties that makes America, America.
On July 31st this year, Jonathan Isaac, number 11 on the Orlando Magic basketball team, made headlines when he decided not to take a knee, but instead to stand during the national anthem. He also decided not to wear a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, as the rest of his team did. Jonathan's faith is the reason why. The reaction from some fans and players was swift and varied, but Isaac is standing on his ground. He joins us today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So why did you decide not to kneel?
Well, I decided not to kneel or wear the Black Lives Matter t-shirt, first and foremost, because I understood that everybody is about solutions. And we all see what's going on in our country. We all see what's going on in our nation today, not just racism, but everything that plagues our society with murder. I can go down the list of everything that plagues our society. So I'm about solutions. And when I saw people taking the decision to kneel, I thought the best decision and the best solution is the gospel of Jesus Christ, because that's how my life has been supported. That's how I've seen countless lives be changed, supported, changed for the better when it comes to situations like racism, when it comes to anything. Realizing and understanding that we're all made in the image of God is the answer. And that's the solution that I went with.
Would you have criticized Christians that did kneel?
No, I think it's up to everybody's opinion. It's up to them what they want to do. I felt like I respected everybody that made the decision to kneel, and I expected that same respect.
And so what was the response that you received after July 31st when you decided not to?
It was wild. My DMs were absolutely flooded, mentions absolutely flooded on every single social media outlet. And it was great. There were people who agree with me and obviously people who didn't, but, much more that agreed with me than that I saw. So I was encouraged.
The government under which Jesus lived was corrupt and oppressive. On every hand were crying abuses, extortion, intolerance, and grinding cruelty. Yet the Savior attempted no civil reforms. He attacked no national abuses nor condemned the national enemies. He did not interfere with the authority or administration of those in power. He who was our example kept aloof from earthly governments. Not because he was indifferent to the woes of men, but because the remedy did not lie in merely human and external measures. To be efficient, the cure must reach men individually and must regenerate the heart.
About why the gospel for you has compelled you to say, I'm looking at actions, and what can following Jesus look like for action-oriented measures when it comes to race relations for you?
Oh, well, I think that one of the first things when it comes to following Jesus is looking at yourself in the mirror. And I feel like what happens a lot of times in situations like this is we are comparing each other's sins. We're saying your sins are worse than my sins. And usually that only comes down to whose sin is most visible. And then that person has the moral high ground. But when it comes to Jesus, he's the moral high ground, and we all fall short of his glory. So everyone can look at themselves and say, man, I'm a part of the problem. You're not just evil. I have evil in me too. And we can work together as a solution with the gospel, with Jesus Christ being the thing that pins us all together. I've had conversations with white Christians, and the things that pin us together is the gospel, not color, not anything like that. So we can get past skin color, we can get past all the things that separate us, and look to the one thing that brings us together, which is Jesus, who died for every single one of us.
So I'm curious, then, Jonathan, how do you enter into a conversation where somebody might, express their biases against you are a black man? How do you respond to the hatred that might be propelled towards you as a black individual?
Well, I mean, I think that it comes down to individuals. I'm not one to paint everybody a certain way and say, okay, white people are like this or black people are like this. I've been helped and loved by white people and vice versa on both sides. So I'm not one to stand in the middle or on one side saying that the other side is wrong. I think it comes down to individuals. And I think at the end of the day, the problem is sin. The problem has always been sin from the very beginning of time. And it comes down to an individual basis. Some people feel a certain way, some people don't, but you can't paint with such a broad brush. So I would just go down to it's personal. It's between every individual. And that's why the gospel is so important, because the gospel impacts one individual at a time and changing their heart to see more clearly and to see things from a spiritual perspective and not a natural one.
Right. So have you ever, I'm assuming as a black man, you've experienced racism. How do you feel when you experience that, when you're seen not because of your faith, but because of your skin color?
I mean, I think every black person has experienced it at some point in time in my life. It hasn't been anything recently, more so when I was a kid, but and with kids. But it happens, and that's a part of, like I said, the sinful hearts of man. I can't call somebody out for what they do wrong without acknowledging my own wrong. And that's, again, where we all fall short of God's glory. We all say things we shouldn't say, do things we shouldn't do. And a lot of times we're not so honest about that. And I think that's the conversation that needs to be had, that we all fall short and that we all can continue to move forward like we have as a country and as a people, as we look towards Jesus Christ, who died for every single one of us.
Yeah. Not everybody believes in the gospel, and so and not everybody believes in Jesus. So how do you walk this conversation with people who might not necessarily agree with what you say? As you're saying, we could fight this problem of racial injustice with Jesus.
My appeal to them would be, what is going to change everything? What is at the cause, the root of the problem? It's not just white versus black. It's a problem of every single human being wanting what doesn't belong to them, wanting what they can't have, what they don't deserve, and doing whatever they want to get it. And that comes down to each heart. That comes down to the sin of man. And I would point them to the Bible and the cross, in which Jesus can set us free from all the things that plague our society. And I think in this time, we're looking for hope. We're looking for an answer to the problems, and I believe that God gave the answer 2,000 years ago when Jesus died on that cross. So that's what I would appeal to them, to just look around and see the world that we're living in, and see everything that plagues our society, and that we need a different route. We need a different answer.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan Isaac.
Thank you for having me.
Against the Brooklyn Nets, decided to take a stand for Jesus, not the national anthem, but Jesus Christ, instead of bowing down in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. When people started to attack Jonathan Isaac verbally, Tim Reynolds, an AP sports writer, said, Jonathan Isaac and his ordained minister, someone who gave money to make sure kids got fed when COVID closed schools, led a drive to support Hurricane Dorian victims, and donates to Central Florida literacy programs.
Jonathan, Jamie Say, WKMG. Wondering if you can comment on the Rolling Stone article and your comments that appeared on that about you not getting a vaccination, why you don't want to get a vaccination, and were you misquoted in that article?
I would start by saying that I was pretty badly misrepresented in the Rolling Stone article, and because of that, I can understand anyone who may say they don't transparently or overtly trust the media. In a frustrated tweet yesterday, I had noted that true journalism was dying, and to that I would say that I appreciate every single one of you, those that try their best to correctly share the thoughts, the ideas, and the heart of the people that they're asking questions of. I'm not anti-vax. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti-science. I didn't come to my current vaccination status by studying Black history or watching Donald Trump press conferences. I have nothing but the utmost respect for every healthcare worker and person in Orlando and all across the world that have worked tirelessly to keep us safe. My mom has worked in healthcare for a really long time. I thank God, I'm grateful that I live in a society where vaccines are possible and we can protect ourselves and have the means to protect ourselves in the first place. But with that being said, it is my belief that the vaccine status of every person should be their own choice and completely up to them without bullying, without being pressured, or without being forced into doing so. I'm not ashamed to say that I'm uncomfortable with taking the vaccine at this time. I think that we're all different. We all come from different places. We've all had different experiences and hold dear to different beliefs. And what it is that you do with your body when it comes to putting medicine in there should be your choice, free of the ridicule and the opinion of others.
Jonathan, Josh Robbins with The Athletic. Hesitant to get it?
I would start with, I've had COVID in the past, and so our understanding of antibodies, of natural immunity has changed a great deal from the onset of the pandemic and is still evolving. I understand that the vaccine would help if you catch COVID, and you'll be able to have less symptoms from contracting it. But with me having COVID in the past and having antibodies with my current age group and physical fitness level, it's not necessarily a fear of mine. Taking the vaccine, like I said, it would decrease my chances of having a severe reaction, but it does open me up to the, albeit rare chance, but the possibility of having an adverse reaction to the vaccine itself. I don't believe that being unvaccinated means infected, or being vaccinated means uninfected. You can still catch COVID with or without having the vaccine. I would say, honestly, the craziness of it all, in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to, doesn't make one comfortable to do what said person is telling them to do.
How do you straddle that line between, letting Andrew have his personal space and also knowing that what his absence might do to the team situation?
That would be like Andrew, who, as everyone knows, previously just had a kid, maybe, 5 months ago or so now. That would be like me telling him, like, yo, your wife is going into labor. How dare you leave this team and not go tend to your wife for what that can mean for this team? That's something that's personal to him. That's health related. That's, something that's personal to his family. This is no different. This is, we're dealing with something that to me feels like has turned into a political war. when you're talking about a vaccination and non-vaccinated. I think it's become very political. And, you know, for someone who's not extremely into politics, when you make something so political and not everyone is into politics, then you can also turn those people off, you know? And, you know, I think there is something to be said for people's concern about something that's being pressed so hard. Like, why are you pressing this so hard? Like, so much, you're just pressing it. I think you have to honor people's feelings and their own personal beliefs. And I think that's been lost when it comes to vaccinated and non-vaccinated. And it kind of sucks that that's been lost because you're essentially not giving anyone, you say we live in the land of the free. Well, you're not giving anyone freedom because you're making people do something essentially without necessarily making them, you're making them do something. And that goes against everything that America stands for or supposedly stands for. And so I don't think, no, I know I'm not in any position to go tell him what he should or should not be doing. And as a leader of this team, I'm not going to go to him and say, hey, man, we really need, no, the hell, you do what you feel you want to do. That has nothing. I'm not going to go and ask him, did he get a polio vaccine? So why would I go ask him if he got a COVID?
I would like an explanation to, you know, people with vaccines, why are they still getting COVID? If that's something that we are supposed to highly be protected from. Like, that's funny that, it reduces your chances of going to the hospital. It doesn't eliminate anybody from getting COVID, right? So is everybody in here vaxxed? I would assume, right? So you all can still get COVID, right?
We're less likely to die or go to the hospital.
Okay, but you can still get COVID. Right. So, and you can still pass it along with the vax, right?
So
I'm just asking the question.
Oh, sure. And so, like, just having COVID back around the Olympics, like, that basically just saying, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but having it change your opinion one way or another, like, did it kind of re-emphasize, I don't need the vaccine because of that?
No, that wasn't the case. I mean, yeah, I had it, but that doesn't mean I can't get it again, you know? I mean, it's no different than somebody with a vaccine. Like, I developed the antibodies for it, so my chances will be less likely now as well, right? But it's still a possibility I may get it. Just like there are players and coaches and staff who are vaxxed and missing camp right now because of it.
I don't get it. We all know what's going on. People are dying in the streets. We have to do something about it.
Basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is insisting the NBA and its players take a firmer stance on vaccination. The Players Union says over 90% of NBA players are vaccinated, like reigning NBA champion Giannis Antetokounmpo. And at least 7 of the league's 30 teams say their rosters are fully vaccinated, with several others not far behind. But there are a few holdouts, like Washington Wizards star Bradley Beal. Others aren't sharing their vaccination status, like Brooklyn Nets superstar Kyrie Irving.
I would like to keep that private, and just please respect that.
Unvaccinated players are saying that this is a personal choice. What's your reaction to that?
It's a personal choice if you don't belong to a team where you have to be in close confinement with other players. They have families, they have friends.
After we spoke to Abdul-Jabbar, CBS News obtained a memo detailing the NBA's new protocol for unvaccinated players. They will have to undergo daily testing. They will not be able to dine with vaccinated teammates, and they will be given lockers as distant as possible from other players. They'll also be forced to quarantine except for essential activities like taking kids to school or buying groceries.
You've called for the NBA to insist that all players and staff be vaccinated, and if they refuse, you believe that they should be removed from the team? Why do you feel so strongly about that?
Well, I think that when we ignore a pandemic that is killing people just because some people don't feel like doing some research, I can't go along with that. This COVID thing is killing black people and brown people at a ridiculous rate. So, you know, it's really an extension of Black Lives Matter. And we have to make this obvious and let people know how important it is.
That within a year, I think we will be able to come back to normal life. I don't think that this means that variants will not be continue coming, and I don't think that this means that we should be able to live our lives without having without having vaccinations, basically. But that's, again, remains to be seen. The most likely scenario for me, it is that because the virus is spread all over the world, that we will continue seeing new variants that are coming out, and also we will have vaccines that they will last at least a year. And I think the most likely scenario is annual revaccinations, but we don't know.
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power. We must increase vaccinations among the unvaccinated with new vaccination requirements. I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week.
You're a member of society, and as a member of society, reaping all the benefits of being a member of society, you have a responsibility to society. And I think each of us, particularly in the context of a pandemic that's killing millions of people, you have got to look at it and say there comes a time when you do have to give up what you consider your individual right of making your own decision for the greater good of society.
I saw a tweet from you. This is why I reached out to you specifically. You sent this just a couple days ago. I'm an ER nurse on Long Island. I'm pro-vaccine and anti-mandate. In my department, 4 nurses either resigned or will be fired due to the mandates. 24 administrators have been fired. Another 5 were forced against their will to get the shot. This mandate will destroy hospitals. Okay, so that's what's happening to you in Long Island. Obviously, this is close to my heart. Well, first, do you mind if I ask what hospital?
I work for Northwell, one of the larger hospitals, Long Island.
Gotcha. So now that in mind, we also have the governor of New York, who nobody voted for, who in essence is firing 83,000 healthcare workers. The people we were told are the heroes. They are going to be replaced by the National Guard if they so choose not to get the vaccine. So I'll let you unpack that tweet. But to start, you're saying you're pro-vaccine, you're anti-mandate. So do you want to clean that up a little bit?
Absolutely. And I myself, I'm vaccinated. I got both my shots, and my family got their shots. All my friends got it. And I think the vaccine does help limit the symptoms of COVID if you get it. So it does prevent ICU stays. It does work. The problem is it doesn't prevent you from spreading the virus. So the vaccine that I got, it is a risk. Any vaccine we take, any medicine, any medical procedure, there's always risks to it. And understanding those risks, I got the vaccine, and I would encourage people to get the vaccine. However, it's not a perfect vaccine yet. This thing cannot stop transmission. It can't stop you from getting COVID, which the CDC also just said the other day. We can't be firing people that choose not to get the vaccine. Thankfully, my wife was pregnant during this, and we chose not to get her the vaccine while she was pregnant. After she gave birth, we gave her the vaccine. But what if my wife was a nurse? My wife would be forced to be either get the vaccine while you're pregnant or fired. And thankfully, at the time, we had the opportunity of that choice. And that choice is not being offered today. So I'm pro-vaccine. I just don't think anybody should be fired if they think they don't want the vaccine at this time.
You know, bizarrely, on the pregnancy front, you may have seen the head of the CDC, Walensky, just a couple days ago saying, oh, it's completely fine for pregnant women and for breastfeeding women, et cetera, except there's simply no way they could have that data yet.
It's too soon. And if we look at following the science, we're all scientists. We have degrees. We've been doing this for over 20 years. Data takes time. This has only been, 6-8 months. Some of these women that have had the vaccine and given birth, it's not long enough for us to see the effects of it, what's happening. And there have been so many FDA-approved drugs and treatments in the past that we're realizing now are not safe, and they have recalls. And it's just too soon to be mandated. It's got to be a choice at this point.
What have their rationalities been as to why they're not getting vaccinated?
It ranges. There's one nurse that I work with who is 7 months pregnant, and this nurse actually wants the vaccine. She said, I want the vaccine. I'll get the vaccine. Just wait until I have my baby, and I will come back vaccinated. And she was forced to resign because they said no. At 7 months pregnant, this is someone who actually wanted it. And they're holding the line. It says, no, you're not going to be here come September 27th. And she resigned in lieu of being fired so she can keep some benefits there. But she was forced out. We have another great colleague of mine who's in her 30s. She's had a stroke already. She's blind in one eye, had open heart surgery. And we know that there is a very small risk, but the risk is there, of blood clots with the vaccine. And she said, I'm not taking that risk. I'm already blind in one eye. I don't want to be blind in another eye if I get this clot and I'm predispositioned to have a stroke. This is somebody who's a nurse. She knows what she's talking about. And she was fired. We have others on religious beliefs and others who just don't know. They've had COVID. They have the antibodies. And the whole purpose to get the vaccine is to give you antibodies. So we're a little confused. If you already have natural antibodies, why are you giving me another shot to have antibodies and then requiring me to get multiple boosters? So
have you guys, have you brought that, sorry to interrupt, have you guys brought that up with administrators? I mean, I get that sort of it's just going down the chain and everyone's just like, well, they told me to do it and you told me to do it and we're going to do it. But when you bring that up about the natural antibody thing, which nobody seems to want to discuss, Fauci and the head of the CDC and everything else, what are the administrators saying to you guys?
The administrators are saying they're following the CDC protocol, and they're not going back to us with the science that we know that they have. A lot of these administrators are doctors and nurses, and this isn't a nursing thing. This is spread out to pharmacists and doctors and nurses. It's all throughout healthcare of multiple people wanting the vaccine or not wanting it. And the majority of them have already had COVID. They've tested positive through blood work that they have antibodies. And they're being told, no, you still have to get the shot. And that's what we're really fighting. And I'm trying to represent a whole group here because it doesn't make sense.
Yet, because of false brothers secretly brought in who slipped in to spy out our freedom that we have in Christ Jesus, so that they might bring us into slavery.
We have to get this community back. And what we went through this pandemic made us stronger. I believe that, especially when I talk to young people who weren't able to have their graduations from high school or a normal life for the last 18 months. I say to them, whatever comes your way in life, you are stronger. You are more resilient. God let you survive this pandemic because he wants you to do great things someday. He let you live through this when so many other people did not. And that is also your responsibility. But how do we keep more people alive? We are not through this pandemic. I wished we were, but I prayed a lot to God during this time. And you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine. That is from God to us. And we must say, thank you, God. Thank you. And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones. But there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know this. You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another. And how do you show that love? But to care about each other enough to say, please get vaccinated because I love you. I want you to live. I want our kids to be safe when they're in schools. I want you to be safe when you go to a doctor's office or to a hospital and are treated by somebody. You don't want to get the virus from them. You're already sick or you wouldn't be there. We have to solve this, my friends. I need every one of you. I need you to let them know that this is how we can fight this pandemic, come back to normal, and then start talking about the real issues that we have to. Fighting systemic racial injustice, which exists today. And if there's a denier, I will take you on any day because I've seen it. I know it exists. And we are not going to have a blind eye to this ever again any longer under my watch. And that is my commitment to you.
greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought are sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right though the heavens fall.